Imagine walking into a crowded room. Within seconds, before anyone speaks, before rational thought kicks in, your body has already made decisions. Your pupils dilate toward certain faces. Your heart rate increases ever so slightly. Microscopic sweat glands activate. And all of this happens before you have consciously registered a single feature of anyone present. What if I told you that your most personal romantic and sexual choices, the people you find irresistible, the partners you select, the relationships that define your life, are guided by invisible forces you have never consciously perceived? In a laboratory at the University of New Mexico, researcher Janice Levine watches as participants sniff worn t-shirts and rate their attraction to people they have never seen. Across the room, her colleague Xavier Mitchell analyzes brain scans showing regions lighting up in response to facial symmetry measured in micrometers. Neither scientist is studying conscious choice. They are tracking the hidden architecture of desire. What they and researchers across the globe have discovered is startling. Human attraction operates according to rules most of us never realize exist. The year was 1995, and Klaus Wedekind, a Swiss biological researcher, asked a group of women to smell t-shirts that had been worn by men for 2 days without deodorant or scented soaps. The women consistently preferred the scent of men whose immune system genes were different from their own. This seemingly bizarre experiment revealed something profound. Humans, like many animals, appear to select mates partly based on genetic compatibility, a mechanism invisible to conscious awareness. This discovery opened the floodgates to a new understanding of attraction. No longer could we pretend that our romantic choices were purely matters of personality or shared interests. Biology had entered the equation, and in ways far more subtle than anyone had imagined. We have been looking at attraction all wrong, explains Dr. Levine, adjusting her glasses as she shows me through her laboratory. The conscious mind is often the last to know what the body has already decided. The history of attraction research is surprisingly recent. While poets have written about beauty and desire for millennia, scientific study of attraction mechanisms only gained serious momentum in the 1970s. Before then, attraction was considered too subjective, too culturally variable to study systematically. The prevailing wisdom held that standards of beauty were entirely learned, passed down through cultural norms and media influences. But evolutionary psychologists began asking different questions. If attraction serves reproductive fitness, might there be universal patterns beneath cultural variations? Might our bodies be programmed to respond to certain cues that signaled health, fertility, or genetic compatibility? Dr. Mitchell's work builds on these questions. Every culture has its own beauty standards. That is true, he says, pointing to cross-cultural photographs on his wall. But beneath those differences, we find remarkable consistencies. Certain facial proportions trigger neural responses across populations that have never interacted. That cannot be explained by cultural transmission alone. The turning point came in the early 2000s when brain imaging technology allowed scientists to see attraction happening in real time. Functional MRI scans revealed that the brain responds to attractive faces before conscious processing occurs. The ventral tegmental area, part of the brain's reward circuit, activates within milliseconds of seeing an attractive face, releasing dopamine and creating that unmistakable feeling of pleasure and interest. This raised a provocative question. If attraction begins before conscious thought, what exactly is the brain responding to? What are the hidden rules that govern this most personal of human experiences? Xavier Mitchell stands in his laboratory holding 2 vials of clear liquid. This one, he says, lifting the vial in his right hand, contains compounds from the immune system of a 27-year-old woman. The other contains compounds from a potential mate. He places them in an analyzer that will determine their genetic compatibility. The science behind this analysis began with those t-shirt studies but has grown far more sophisticated. At the center is the major histocompatibility complex, MHC. a set of genes that helps our immune systems distinguish between our own cells and dangerous invaders. These genes are incredibly diverse across the human population, with thousands of variants. What we now understand, explains Mitchell, is that humans appear programmed to prefer partners with MHC genes different from their own. The evolutionary advantage is clear. Offspring will have stronger, more versatile immune systems. The mechanism for this preference is extraordinarily subtle. MHC genes influence body odor in ways undetectable by conscious smell. When we find someone's natural scent appealing, we are often responding to evidence of immune system compatibility. But here's where the mystery deepens. Oral contraceptives appear to reverse this preference. Multiple studies have shown that women on hormonal birth control tend to prefer the scent of men with similar MHC genes, the opposite of their preference when not on contraceptives. Consider the implications, says Dr. Levine. A woman meets a man while taking birth control. She finds him appealing, they form a relationship. Later, when she discontinues the pill to conceive, her attraction profile may fundamentally change. This discovery raises profound questions. How many relationships have been affected by this invisible chemical interaction? Could declining sexual attraction in some relationships be traced to changes in hormonal contraception? And if natural scent plays such a crucial role in mate selection, what happens in a world increasingly dominated by artificial scents? Perfumes? Colognes? Scented products? Rachel Herz, a psychologist at Brown University, has studied how artificial scents interact with these natural preferences. Her research suggests that while artificial scents can mask natural odors, they cannot completely override the immune compatibility detection system. The nose knows, she explains. Even with perfume present, test subjects still differentiate between compatible and incompatible immune profiles at rates significantly above chance. Perhaps most surprising is how this system operates entirely beneath conscious awareness. When research participants are asked why they preferred certain t-shirts in scent tests, they create rational explanations, claiming one smelled cleaner or more masculine. None recognized they were detecting genetic compatibility. This raises a troubling question. If we are unaware of this fundamental driver of attraction, what other invisible forces might be shaping our most intimate choices? In a quiet corner of Edinburgh University, psychologist David Perrott has spent decades photographing faces, measuring proportions, and tracking how slight variations affect perceptions of attractiveness. His work has revealed something remarkable. Across cultures, humans show consistent preferences for facial symmetry, even when the asymmetries are too subtle to be consciously detected. The human visual system is extraordinarily sensitive to deviations from perfect symmetry, Perrott explains. We can detect asymmetries of less than 2% difference between sides of a face. But why would symmetry matter for attraction? The answer connects beauty to biology in unexpected ways. Facial symmetry serves as a reliable indicator of developmental stability, how successfully an organism developed despite environmental stressors. Greater symmetry suggests fewer developmental disruptions and potentially better genetic quality. When Perrott's team used computer imaging to create perfectly symmetrical versions of faces, research participants consistently rated them as more attractive than the originals, even when they could not identify what had changed. More striking still, measurements of pupil dilation showed stronger responses to symmetrical faces even when viewers claimed they saw no difference. The precision of this beauty-detecting system is astonishing. Research from Japan's Kyoto University found that the brain responds differently to faces with symmetry deviations of just 0.5 millimeters. Differences impossible to consciously perceive. This is not about conscious preferences, explains neuroscientist Nancy Etkoff. This is about ancient neural circuitry assessing genetic quality through visual cues. The implications extend beyond faces. Studies have found that body symmetry correlates with dancing ability, athletic performance, and even sperm quality in men. Women tend to report more orgasms with more symmetrical male partners. These connections suggest our attraction to symmetry may be linked to genuine indicators of genetic quality. Yet the symmetry rule has fascinating exceptions and complexities. Some asymmetrical features, a slightly crooked smile, a distinctive mole, can enhance attractiveness by making a face more memorable or unique. This points to tension between competing attraction forces. The pull toward ideal biological indicators versus the appeal of distinctive features that help potential mates stand out from competitors. This leads to a profound question. If beauty detection operates through unconscious neural mechanisms tuned to biological indicators, how much of what we find attractive reflects personal choice versus automatic response? Jessica Lee, a graduate student in acoustic biology, stands beside a sophisticated audio analysis system. On the screen, waveforms display the vocal patterns of research participants speaking the same neutral phrase. "Listen to this recording," she says, playing a deep male voice. "Now listen to this one." The second voice is noticeably higher in pitch. Our research participants rated the first speaker as significantly more attractive, more dominant, and more likely to be chosen for leadership positions, all based solely on voice pitch. Lee's research is part of a growing field investigating how voice serves as an honest signal of hormonal profiles and, by extension, reproductive qualities. In men, voice pitch is directly connected to testosterone levels. Higher testosterone produces a deeper voice through its effects on the larynx and vocal cords. In women, higher-pitched voices correlate with estrogen levels. The voice is essentially broadcasting hormonal information, explains Dr. Mitchell. When we find certain voices attractive, we are responding to hormonal indicators that evolved as mate selection criteria. The research shows consistently cross-cultural patterns. Men generally find higher-pitched female voices more attractive, while women typically prefer deeper male voices, particularly during the fertile phase of their menstrual cycles. These preferences appear strongest in contexts framed around short-term attraction rather than long-term partnership. But the voice hormone connection extends beyond pitch. Vocal qualities like resonance, cadence, and speech rhythm also influence attraction judgments. Speech rate affects perceptions of competence and intelligence. Vocal fry, a creaky quality produced by fluttering the vocal cords at their lowest frequency, influences attraction in culturally specific ways. In one remarkable study, researchers at McMaster University recorded women speaking and measured their vocal attractiveness ratings from male listeners. They then checked the speakers' hormone levels through saliva samples. Women whose voices were rated most attractive had significantly higher estrogen levels and were closer to the fertile phase of their cycles. The voice changes subtly throughout the menstrual cycle, says Lee. These changes are typically too small for conscious detection, but they register unconsciously and influence attraction. Even more surprising, these vocal cues affect attraction differently depending on relationship context. Research from the University of Aberdeen found that women preferred deeper male voices when considering short-term relationships, but this preference decreased when evaluating potential long-term partners. This suggests different mating strategies activate different attraction systems. "We seem to have dual assessment systems," explains evolutionary psychologist David Putz. "One evaluates genetic quality, which often correlates with higher testosterone and deeper voices in men. The other evaluates partnership qualities like reliability and parental investment potential, which may not always align with the same hormonal profiles." This vocal attraction system appears to operate largely beneath awareness. When research participants are asked why they find certain voices attractive, they rarely mention pitch or hormonal indicators. Instead, they refer to voices as warm, confident, or soothing, subjective qualities that mask the biological assessment happening beneath. Most people have no idea their attraction is being influenced by precise vocal frequencies that evolved as hormonal indicators, says Lee. But every time we speak, We broadcast evolutionary information that dates back to our distant ancestors. This raises another layer of the attraction mystery. If hormonal signals through voice influence our preferences without our knowledge, how might modern technologies be disrupting these ancient systems? Do phone calls, voice messages, and digital communication platforms preserve or distort these evolutionary signals? At Harvard University's Evolutionary Psychology Laboratory, researchers have participants walk on treadmills while motion capture technology records their movements. Every stride is analyzed through algorithms that extract patterns invisible to casual observation. Movement contains information about physical condition, hormonal status, and even psychological states, explains biomechanics researcher Thomas Jensen. Our ancestors needed to quickly assess others' physical capabilities and health status. Movement provided that information at a distance. The research reveals striking patterns. Women's walking movements are rated most attractive when they occur during peak fertility. Specifically, hip movements become subtly more pronounced. Men find these fertility-linked movement patterns more appealing even when they cannot consciously identify any difference. For men, movement attractiveness correlates with testosterone levels and physical symmetry. Male dance movements rated as attractive by women typically display greater variability in neck and torso movement combined with speed and rhythm in the right knee. Movement signatures that reliably indicate motor control and physical condition. Dance is a courtship display in virtually all human cultures, says anthropologist Helen Fisher. It's not arbitrary. Dance allows assessment of coordination, strength, and energy levels, all relevant to mate quality. The movement assessment system appears extraordinarily sensitive. Research from Queen Mary University of London found that observers could accurately judge personality traits like extroversion and emotional stability just by watching how people walk. More remarkably, these judgments matched actual personality measurements at rates far exceeding chance. Movement signatures even influence attraction through video. When researchers created point light displays, videos showing only dots representing major joints in motion, with all other visual information removed, observers still made consistent attractiveness judgments that correlated with judgments of the full-body videos. The body reveals truth that words can hide, says Jensen. Movement patterns are extremely difficult to fake convincingly. They provide honest signals about physical and psychological qualities. This movement assessment system operates with remarkable speed. Eye tracking studies show that people make initial attraction judgments based on movement within milliseconds, long before conscious processing occurs. These rapid assessments influence subsequent interactions, creating expectation effects that can be difficult to overcome. The evolutionary logic seems clear. Movement provides dynamic information about a potential mate's health, coordination, and energy levels, qualities relevant to both reproductive fitness and survival capability. What's striking is how these assessments happen automatically, outside conscious awareness. People consistently deny that movement influences their attraction judgments, says Dr. Levine. They attribute their preferences to personality or connection. But when we manipulate only movement patterns experimentally, attraction ratings change predictably. This discovery adds another layer to our understanding of attraction's hidden architecture. Not only are we responding to static features like facial symmetry, but we are also continuously processing dynamic information through movement patterns that broadcast biological quality. The implications are profound. In an age of increasing digital interaction, where many initial encounters happen through static photographs on dating apps, we may be missing crucial information that our attraction systems evolved to assess. How might this reshape modern relationships? And what happens when we eventually meet in person and our unconscious movement assessment system finally activates? In a laboratory at UCLA, researchers track hormonal levels in female participants while simultaneously measuring their attraction responses to different male features. The results reveal something remarkable. Women's attraction patterns shift systematically across the menstrual cycle. What we find attractive is not fixed. explains endocrinologist Maria Hernandez. Preferences oscillate in predictable ways linked to fertility status. During the high fertility phase near ovulation, women show increased preference for masculine facial features, deeper voices, competitive behavior, and scents indicating high testosterone. During lower fertility phases, these preferences diminish or reverse, with greater attraction to faces displaying more feminine or nurturing characteristics. These preference shifts appear strongest in contexts framed as short-term attraction rather than long-term partnership evaluation. They also vary in intensity depending on a woman's relationship status and partner qualities. The data suggest a dual mating strategy, says evolutionary psychologist Stephen Gangestad. Different preference patterns activate depending on whether the unconscious goal is to secure good genes through a short-term encounter or secure investment and partnership through a long-term relationship. Men experience hormonal fluctuations too, though on different timescales. Testosterone levels in men follow daily patterns, peaking in the morning and declining throughout the day. Seasonal variations also occur, with testosterone typically higher in autumn and lower in spring. These hormonal shifts correlate with changes in risk-taking, competitiveness, and mating effort. Male attraction patterns aren't as dramatically cyclical as female patterns, explains Dr. Mitchell, but they do fluctuate with hormonal states. Men with temporarily elevated testosterone show stronger preference for feminine facial features and voices. Perhaps most fascinating is how these cyclical patterns interact with other attraction systems. During peak fertility, women show stronger preferences for symmetrical faces and bodies, more attention to masculine movement patterns, and greater sensitivity to MHC compatibility in scent. It's as though multiple attraction systems synchronize during fertile periods to optimize mate selection. These cyclical patterns raise profound questions about relationship compatibility. If attraction preferences shift throughout the month, how might this affect long-term relationships? Research suggests that women partnered with highly masculine men report more satisfaction during fertile phases, but more relationship dissatisfaction during low fertility phases. Exactly when more nurturing qualities become more attractive. The mismatch between fertile phase preferences and long-term relationship needs creates an inherent tension, explains relationship psychologist Alexandra Cohen. Women may select partners who optimize genetic quality during fertile periods, but find those same partners less ideal for day-to-day relationship functioning. Most remarkable is how these preference shifts operate without conscious awareness. When asked, research participants typically deny their preferences have changed across their cycles. The conscious mind remains unaware that the attraction system has shifted its criteria. We are built with multiple, sometimes competing attraction systems, says Dr. Levine. Different systems activate depending on hormonal status, relationship context, and environmental cues. The conscious mind constructs a coherent narrative about why we feel attracted, but that narrative often misses the biological orchestration happening beneath. This cyclical nature of attraction adds yet another layer of complexity to our understanding. Not only are we responding to hidden biological signals through facial features, movement, voice, and scent, but our very criteria for evaluating these signals shift over time in response to our own changing hormonal states. In a quiet moment at their research facility, Drs. Mitchell and Levine contemplate the implications of their findings. The laboratory walls are covered with brain scans, hormone profiles, and attraction data from thousands of participants across cultures. "We have been approaching attraction all wrong," says Dr. Mitchell, gesturing toward the displays. The conscious mind is not the decision-maker in attraction. It's more like a press secretary, creating plausible explanations for decisions that have already been made by ancient neural systems. This realization represents a fundamental shift in how we understand human attraction. For centuries, philosophers, poets, and ordinary people have treated attraction as a mysterious but ultimately conscious process, something reflecting our unique personal values and choices. The scientific evidence now reveals a very different picture. Attraction emerges from the orchestrated activity of multiple specialized systems that evolved to detect indicators of genetic quality, health, fertility, and compatibility. These systems operate primarily outside conscious awareness, communicating through the language of emotion rather than rational thought. What we experience as chemistry or attraction is actually the conscious mind's interpretation of these underlying biological assessments, explains Dr. Levine. The feeling of attraction is real, but its causes are largely hidden from us. This hidden architecture of attraction follows 5 fundamental rules. 1. The immune compatibility code. We are drawn to partners with complementary immune system genes detected through subtle sense signals. 2. The mathematics of beauty. Facial and body symmetry serve as honest indicators of developmental stability and genetic quality, detected by specialized neural circuits. 3. The voice hormone connection. Vocal qualities broadcast hormonal information relevant to fertility and genetic quality. 4. The movement signature. Dynamic movement patterns reveal physical condition, hormonal status, and even personality traits. 5. The cyclical nature of desire. Attraction preferences shift with hormonal fluctuations, optimizing different mate selection criteria across time. These systems evolved over millions of years to solve the most important problem in evolution: selecting mates who would produce healthy offspring and provide necessary resources. But they evolved in environments radically different from our modern world. We now face an unprecedented situation, says Dr. Mitchell. Our attraction systems evolved for small-scale societies where encounters happened face-to-face, where natural scents weren't masked by artificial products, where movement could be observed directly, and where long-term knowledge of potential mates was the norm. Modern dating often inverts these conditions. Initial attraction frequently occurs through photographs that provide no movement, scent, or voice information. Artificial scents mask the immune compatibility signals that once guided mate selection. Hormonal contraceptives alter natural preference patterns. Digital communication delays or prevents the full activation of our evolved attraction assessment systems. We are not claiming that attraction is entirely determined by biology, clarifies Dr. Levine. Cultural factors, personal history, and conscious values absolutely matter, but they interact with these ancient systems rather than replacing them. The scientific consensus now points toward a dual-process model of attraction. The primary, fast-acting system operates automatically, evaluating biological indicators of mate quality. The secondary, slower system incorporates cultural standards, personal preferences, and relationship goals. Both systems influence the final experience of attraction, but they sometimes conflict. This understanding helps explain common relationship challenges. The initial attraction system may respond strongly to indicators of genetic quality, while the secondary system prioritizes compatibility factors like shared values and communication styles. When these systems align, attraction feels natural and enduring. When they conflict, relationships often struggle with chemistry issues that prove difficult to articulate or resolve. The most important insight, says Dr. Mitchell, is that awareness changes everything. Once we understand these hidden rules, we can make more informed choices about relationships rather than being driven solely by unconscious forces. If our most intimate choices are shaped by biological systems operating outside conscious awareness, what does this mean for human relationships? The implications extend from personal dating choices to broader questions about technology, culture, and the future of human connection. For individuals, understanding attraction's hidden architecture offers both liberation and responsibility. Liberation comes from recognizing that chemistry, or its absence, is not simply a matter of personal failure or inadequacy. The complex biological systems underlying attraction respond to signals far removed from character or worth as a person. I see relief in my research participants' faces when I explain these mechanisms, says relationship counselor Elena Rodriguez. People blame themselves when attraction fades in relationships. Understanding the biological underpinnings helps them approach these challenges with less shame and more practical problem-solving. The responsibility comes from recognizing that unconscious attractions do not need to dictate relationship choices. Conscious awareness allows integration of biological pulls with longer-term values and goals. Evolved attraction mechanisms optimize for genetic quality and reproductive success, not necessarily relationship satisfaction or personal growth, explains Dr. Levine. Understanding these systems allows us to honor our biology while making choices aligned with our conscious priorities. For technology designers, particularly those creating dating platforms, these findings present crucial considerations. Current dating apps rely heavily on photographs, which activate only part of our evolved attraction assessment systems. The most successful future platforms might incorporate elements that engage multiple attraction channels, perhaps voice samples, movement videos, or even scent profiles through chemical analysis. Dating technology currently creates a mismatch between how we select partners online versus how attraction actually works, explains technology ethicist Jordan Wilkins. The platforms that succeed will be those that bridge virtual selection with biological reality. For cultural critics and sociologists, these findings illuminate persistent patterns in beauty standards and attraction across cultures. While beauty ideals certainly vary culturally, the underlying mechanisms evaluating symmetry, movement quality, and hormonal indicators operate cross-culturally. This helps explain why certain features consistently appear in idealized representations across diverse societies. Rather than seeing beauty standards as purely cultural constructions, we now recognize the interplay between evolved psychological mechanisms and cultural elaboration, explains cultural anthropologist Melissa Harper. Cultures develop different aesthetics, but they build upon universal perceptual tendencies. Medical implications also emerge, particularly regarding hormonal contraception. If hormonal birth control alters natural preference patterns, particularly immune compatibility detection through scent, should this information influence contraceptive choices? Some researchers suggest women might consider non-hormonal contraception when selecting long-term partners to ensure attraction patterns remain consistent. Perhaps most profound are the philosophical implications. If unconscious systems significantly influence whom we love, what does this mean for concepts like free will and authentic choice in relationships? Understanding attraction's biological basis doesn't eliminate choice. It contextualizes it, argues philosopher Richard Davies. Conscious awareness of these systems allows us to integrate unconscious pulls with conscious values, creating more authentic choices precisely because we recognize the multiple influences at play. These findings also transform how we might approach relationship education. Rather than focusing exclusively on communication skills or conflict resolution, relationship education could include understanding how biological attraction systems function, their strengths and limitations, and strategies for navigating the inevitable tensions between evolutionary pulls and modern relationship needs. Every long-term relationship faces moments when attraction fluctuates, explains Dr. Mitchell. Understanding the cyclical nature of desire and the different systems at play helps couples navigate these changes without catastrophizing them. The science also suggests practical strategies for sustaining physical attraction in long-term relationships. Activities that elevate testosterone, like exercise or competition, before dates can temporarily increase attraction mechanisms. Novel experiences activate dopamine pathways similar to those involved in early-stage attraction. Even something as simple as seeing one's partner interact confidently in social settings can reactivate attraction systems that respond to status and competence displays. Perhaps most hopeful is how this understanding might reduce relationship shame and blame. When attraction challenges arise, partners can approach them as natural biological processes rather than personal failings or rejection. The couples who navigate these issues most successfully are those who can discuss attraction openly, without judgment, says Dr. Levine. They recognize that biology influences their experience, but doesn't define their relationship's value or potential. As the sun sets outside their laboratory window, Doctors Mitchell and Levine consider the broader meaning of their discoveries. The room glows with the light of computer screens displaying the invisible architecture of human attraction. Brain regions activating, hormones fluctuating, ancient systems evaluating genetic quality through modern encounters. What strikes me most, reflects Dr. Levine, is not how these mechanisms limit us, but how understanding them expands our capacity for genuine connection. The science reveals something both humbling and empowering. Attraction begins in ancient neural systems optimized for reproductive success in environments vastly different from our own. These systems operate largely outside conscious awareness, evaluating immune compatibility through scent, genetic quality through symmetry, hormonal profiles through voice, physical condition through movement, and shifting their criteria with our own biological rhythms. Yet consciousness changes everything. Unlike any other species, humans can recognize these patterns, understand their origins and functions, and integrate them into a broader vision of relationship meaning and purpose. We alone can see the hidden architecture and decide how to relate to it, whether to follow its pulls unquestioningly or to incorporate its wisdom while transcending its limitations. The most beautiful relationships, says Dr. Mitchell, aren't those that ignore biology or surrender completely to it. They're those that dance with it, honoring the wisdom in our evolved systems while consciously creating connections that serve our deeper values. Perhaps this is attraction's greatest mystery and gift. It begins in biology but opens into choice. It starts with ancient mechanisms but flowers into experiences uniquely human. Love that knows its origins yet creates its own meaning. Connection that honors evolutionary wisdom while writing new stories of what human bonds can become. In the intricate dance between ancient drives and modern consciousness, we find not limitation but possibility, the chance to create relationships that integrate the whispered wisdom of our evolutionary past with the spoken promises of our chosen future. The science of attraction reveals not that we are less than we imagined, but that we are more remarkable than we knew, beings capable of understanding the hidden forces that move us and, in that understanding, discovering a deeper freedom to love consciously, authentically, and well.